this video, we will see how to use the 2D tracking tools in PFTrack. You have to understand that without the 2D tracking, there is no match moving process. It is the bare bones of every match moving process. In PFTrack, we can use two different types of 2D tracker tools. We have the automated tracker, and we also have the user tracker. Let's see how to use these tools.
So right-click on Estimate Focal. Under the tracking, we get the Auto Track. And now we can go into the Auto Track and click on the Auto Track button. So I'm going to auto track this and we'll be right back. Now that the auto track is done, we can scrub slowly through our footage and see if there's any kind of problematic trackers that we'll be needing to clean up. Now the computer thinks because there's some contrast going on over there, it's a good point to track. But most likely, if I will solve the camera and I solve the scene with this tracker or any other tracker that has a T-junction, it's going to give me some errors and problems in the final result. So if I take the marquee tool under the auto tracker and I just take all these trackers that I don't need, I can just safely delete them. One of the problems with deleting trackers is that you expose areas that are supposed to be tracked as well. Remember that good tracking will not only cover the foreground, middle ground, and background, but it will also cover the whole area of the frame. So the cleanup process is extremely important on the automated tracker before we continue forward. And it's very easy to get lost in what you do. For example, there is another tracker here that needs to be deleted. So go ahead, take your time, clean up the footage, and I'm going to do the same thing, and we'll be right back. Now that we've cleaned the auto track, the next stage would be to add manual trackers to this footage in order to cover the areas that now got no tracking information on them. So if I go back to the node panel, I go back to my tracking, and now I have the user track, so I can click, drag, and drop it into my tree view here. And I have two options here. Either I fetch the previous information from the auto track first, or I create my trackers and then fetch the information. Either way, it should be the same workflow. So I'm going to click on the create, and now I'm going to put my trackers where I need them to be. Because I'm working with the user track, I have the ability to work on their pattern area and search area, and I'm also going to change the color of them. So double click on the color, and I'm going to choose a different color from the ones that are going to be on the auto track. In a similar way as we did with the auto track here, the failure threshold is also going to be lower than the default of 0.7, and the deformation is going to be, again, rotate and skew. And now I can start tracking the features that I want to track. So I got this first tracker. I'm going to follow the pattern area here in the magnifying glass to see that the tracker stays true to those pixels that it follows. And now I can zoom out by holding the middle mouse button, and now I can continue to create my trackers and have them follow the features that I think should be covered and weren't covered by the auto track, or were covered and we had to delete them because of certain issues that we just talked about. Okay, so I'm going to track this backwards, bring it back to where it was, the beginning point, and then track this forward. And I'm going to take a look at my tracking window or the magnifying glass and make sure that the tracker stays true to those features. Wonderful. So you can continue and add as many user tracks that you want, and you have to make sure that these trackers stay true to the pattern that you track, and we'll be right back. As you can see, I added 5 more manual trackers to the whole tracking process. And in case that you have some areas that you think that are too dark and can be tracked, what you can do is you can go into the Enhance button, and here you can choose whatever tool you would like to use in order to enhance the colors. For example, you can use the curves and make sure that the footage is enhanced in color. This might be useful for shots that you're going to work on and are going to be too dark, or you notice features that are in areas that enhancing the colors would help tremendously with the tracking effort. Please note that once you activate the Enhance option, you're going to need to recache the footage in order to write down the temporary changes to the color. So now if I go back to my trackers by unclicking the Enhance, I'll be able to put more trackers now that the footage is more bright. So I'm going to click on the Create, put another tracker over here, center it through the tracker window, making sure that my pattern area and search area are in the right size. And since I am on frame 18, I can track forward, bring it back to frame 18, and track backwards. There are some trackers here that I had to stop them doing the tracking process, such as tracker 5, and add a couple of manual keyframes because of the blurriness that is due to the movement of the camera. So now that trackers are done, we can jump into the camera solve.
So in this specific case, we started off with the auto tracker, and then we fetched that information after it's been cleaned up into the user track node. The next step would be to solve the 3D camera.